Being lean opens up a sexual realm that most men do not see. The average guy does not see because, let's be honest, the average guy nowadays is honestly below average. The average is like being 30 to 40 pounds overweight. And that's just the average nowadays. So most men don't see this type. And when you are leaner, meaning you have more muscle mass than fat, you're going to start seeing a side of women that is different. You know, you're going to see a new realm, a new perspective of women. And this is going to include one night stands, flings, having her set you up as a D appointment. You know, she's going to want to do things like threesomes and stuff like that. If you're into that type of stuff, okay, you're going to see that type of stuff when you get into shape. And let me just squash the argument of, oh, regular guys see this too. And I knew a guy who was average who saw this too. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue and say that they don't. Of course they do. Just because you're fit doesn't mean every single chick is just going to view you as this freaking sex god, okay? It doesn't mean they're going to view you as this, oh my God, I'm just going to do whatever he pleases. And he's just such a freaking masculine alpha male and all that good stuff, all right? So let me get that out of the way. When you get fit though, it is going to open that door almost wide open. So let me give you a little metaphor or let me explain to you what I'm talking about. When you're average, that door, you know, when you have that charisma or when you have that game, and let me say something about that real quick. A lot of these dating coaches and these game coaches are telling you to verbally seduce, verbally convince these chicks to like you and stuff like that. All of that shit does not compare to being in shape and lean. Does it help? Yes, but it just doesn't compare to being lean, because when you are lean and you have charisma, out of there, okay? So anyway, back to what I was saying. If you're average and, you know, you're an average guy and you can talk a little bit and you just have charisma, yeah, that door is going to be creaked open a little bit. You know, it's going to be open a little bit. You can peek through it. When you get in shape, when you start getting leaner, that door is opening more and more. That door of the different perspective of what you're going to see, that freaky side of women. You're going to, oh, snap. It's going to be wide open, okay? No pun intended. It's, you know, you're going to see girls wide open. And that comes with getting into shape. You're going to start seeing things like one-night stands. Women are going to want to have one-night stands with you. They're not going to have a problem with having a one-night stand. You're not going to have to do this whole, what is it, that generic 90 dates. And, you know, you're going to be able to weed chicks out real quick because you're going to have more of these type of experiences. And I understand that every guy is not about that life. Even if you're not, you still want to have that option, because even if you want to get married, you still want your wife to view you as extremely sexually attractive. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't care what your denomination is. You're with the woman. If you're with her, you want her to view you as that. You know, you want her to view you as that sexually attractive, fit, masculine leader. Okay? So, but if you are on that type of time, you know, they're going to be viewing you as that one-night stand guy. They're not going to have a problem with getting freaky with you on the first date. So if you were average at one point, the same chick, we're talking about the same chick, she might have told you, oh no, you know, not today, or she might have kept flaking and jerking you around, stuff like that. When you start getting more lean, when you start getting more into shape, that same girl, she would probably let you smash on that first night, okay? She will probably let you hit on that first night because, believe it or not, guys, you know, we're talking about this whole sexual perspective, and I'm going to say sexual because, you know, I don't want to trigger any algorithms or anything. That whole sexual perspective, trust and believe that us as humans, we're thinking about that S word more times than we would like to admit, because at the end of the day, that is what runs the world, right? They say sex sells. Why you think that is? Every time you turn on the TV, every time you listen to music, everything is over sexualized. And yes, that does have something to do with, I guess, propaganda. But at the same time, it has a lot to do with us just being humans. And that is a large portion of what runs the world, right? You guys just don't know how deep it is. You know, you guys don't know how deep it is with this whole SEO thing, right? When it comes to jobs, you get hired if there's a female boss, she might hire you just because you're fit, just because you're SEO attractive, just because you're lean. Real talk, she might hire you just off of that. Other men will respect you just based off of that. Okay, so it runs deep. It runs deeper than just surface level stuff. But you know, I'm just talking about this for now. She's gonna want to have a one-night stand with you. She's gonna be looking at you, and the whole time, the whole thing, the only thing she's gonna think about is, I want to get it on with this guy. Okay, that's it. That's like the number one thing she's thinking about, because they think about that crap just as much as we do. If you look at these romance novels, and when I say romance, I mean that loosely, because a lot of these novels are raunchy as hell. The main people buying it is women. No, men don't buy raunchy freak off novels, okay? It's females buying that stuff. They're buying these novels that'll make a freaking prostitute blush. You'll be like, what the hell is this? But they're buying that type of stuff, okay? You're gonna see chicks, when you start getting more lean, when you start getting more into shape, you're gonna start seeing females stare at you. The average guy, just a regular Joe Schmo, as I have said, is usually 30 to 40 pounds overweight, is nothing. And when I say average, you know, the people will think, oh, average, you know, he should be getting by. Like I said, the average is actually below average. And this is something that somebody will be like, oh, chicks are staring at you. Whoop-de-doo. You know, hit him with the Young Thug. Whoop-de-doo. He's just staring at him. Whoop-de-doo. Oh, the female staring at him. Whoop-de-doo. That was my terrible Young Thug impression. But, you know, guys might think that, but deep down inside, they know damn well the average guy does not get stared at. And when I say stare, there's a difference between getting looked at for a quick millisecond, which is what the average, let me tell you what the average guy experiences. The average guy, a chick is gonna look at him for a quick millisecond, and then she's gonna turn around and do what she does. Now, a guy that is in shape, not all chicks, like I said, please be reasonable with this, fellas. Please don't take this to the extreme. Take this reasonably, right? But more chicks, they're gonna start seeing more chicks staring, okay? Not just looking at him and then looking away quick as hell, hoping that he don't make eye contact. I'm talking about they're gawking. Like, they're looking right at him. Like, if you're looking down and you look up, you're going to see the chick just straight up looking, staring. And this is going to happen way more. You know, and I'm talking about the kind of soft core stuff. I'm going to get to the more X-rated stuff, more of it in a little bit, you know, the grown folk stuff. But you're going to notice women are going to be smiling more at you. They're going to be staring at you. And before, when you were average, you really didn't experience that. Chicks didn't really smile at you. They weren't really friendly. They wouldn't go out of their way to say hi, you know, things of that nature. You know, they become more overtly flirtatious when you are attractive, when you are physically fit. They're going to start flirting with you. If you're talking to them, the conversation is going to be way more flirty. And if you're, like I said, in a more sexually charged environment, they're going to be overtly flirting, right? They're going to be very freaky with it. When you're at your job, the chicks that you work with are going to be looking at you, and they're going to be talking amongst each other like, yeah, I would definitely do him. Things of that nature, right? So yeah, you're going to be getting gawked at quite a bit when you are fit. You're going to catch chicks gawking at you, and you're going to be like, damn, I thought only guys do that. And you start noticing, man, women are more freakier than I thought. You're going to start seeing that. You're going to be like, dang, these females are more freakier than I thought. And the only reason you didn't realize that before is because there really wasn't nothing for them to be staring at. But now there is. And you'll start seeing it. You'll start getting more chiseled. You'll start looking more sharper, right? And more things, you know, like I said, they're going to do one-night stands. They don't mind smashing on a first date at all. You know, they're going to make you D appointments. You're going to be that guy that's the D appointment. We hear about this D appointment a lot. You're going to get put in that D appointment assignment quite a bit, right? Or you're going to have the ability to. if you never had a chance, because a lot of guys, they don't get put in that D appointment category. They just get put in that, you know, he's fun to talk to and maybe go out with every once in a blue moon. But other than that, there's nothing, I don't see anything. Or, you know, the infamous 90-day date, all that BS, they're going to put you into that. Oh, you know, no, I don't view you that way. Stuff like that. When you start getting fit, you start cutting straight to the chase way more. They're going to start wanting to do freaky stuff, you know, if they're on that threesome type of stuff. If that's your cup of tea, you know, if that's your cup of tea, they're going to want to start doing that. They're going to offer you, hey, I got a homegirl, and hey, we should get a girl. They're going to start doing that type of stuff. And yes, average men, this happens to average men, like I said, but when you get fit, with the door analogy, that door just going to be flung wide open. They're going to start showing you that side, and a lot of guys are going to get taken back like, dang, man, everything that I thought was wrong. You're going to start looking at them in a new light, because a lot of guys, and this is from experience, you know, from talking to some guys, they'll be like, yeah, man, women, you know, you got to take your time with them, and they usually take a lot of time, and, you know, you have to get to know them and stuff like that. All the time in my head, I'm like, man, when I was single, obviously when I was single, like, man, in my head, I'm like, man, a lot of times it was on a first date. You know, a lot of times it didn't even take more than a first date to get freaky with them. And the only way was when I was in shape. When I was out of shape, never. And some guys might be like, oh, tall guys this and tall guys that. I'm 5'11", 6 foot, somewhere between there. On a good day, I'm 6 foot on a good day. You know, 5'11", 6 foot, really not that much of a difference. People can't really tell the fucking difference, all right? But anywho, someone might use height like, oh yeah, you're 6 foot or you're taller, and that's the reason, bro. I'm telling you this. If I was out of shape, which I was at one point, if I was bigger, or if I was like a skinny toothpick, I guarantee you I would get the same results, same subpar results as somebody that's fucking 5'2". Come on, let's be serious. When I started getting in shape, it's like, dang, I would see that very freaky, very playful, super flirtatious side of women. And you know, it's there, nothing beats it. No amount of verbal game or trying to verbally seduce them and all that crap, all that taking your time and all that, nothing compares to when you're in shape. But like I said, when you are in shape and you have that mouthpiece, I mean, it's game over, man. You're going to be running ramshod everywhere you go. Like if you're at work, you're going to be closing up shop. If you work in a very dominated, women-dominated space, you're going to be getting your pick of the litter. And I know a lot of guys say don't shit where you eat. But hey, look, if you're working some BS job like a restaurant or something and you don't intend on being there, whatever. You might as well have your fun if you're not going to be there forever, right? And like I said, females are going to be way more open to doing, they're just going to be like, you want a threesome, right? I got a homegirl. Not all of them, but definitely they're definitely out there. And you're going to be like, dang, man, when I was average, you're going to be thinking to yourself, when I was average, I never saw this, but now I'm seeing this side, and you're not going to go back. And it all starts with just being lean, because we are way more primal in that arena than we would like to think. Yes, chicks be thinking about guys that are fit. Not all the time. Hey, look, if I can go into chicks' fantasy, I can't, obviously. But I'm pretty sure she's not fantasizing about a dude who has a dad bod, okay? Sorry. It's just, more times than not. She might every once in a while, but more times than not, it's a fit guy. Like I said, I made that video of those raunchy romance novels, and all of them on the cover have a buff dude, and then a guy that's in the damn story is usually a buff guy, right? He's the pool boy or some crap like that. And that's why these type of guys that are lean, that are fit, they can tell you these type of stories of how they met a chick and an hour later, they're already doing something with her. They're going to tell you stories of these chicks that gawk at him, of older women, right? Older women, unfortunately, sometimes they're married. As horrible as it is to say, they're gonna be looking, right? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace.